philosophy time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll read Logic Comics. You can read mine.
So just do the same thing? Oh, hi there. This is James. This is my friend Elliot. And you're watching Philosophy Time.
Oh my God.
Okay, so tell us, what is a metaphor?
So I think a metaphor is, so let's start with statements. Let's start with utterances, things that people say, which is the most obvious and I think the core case. A metaphor is a case where somebody says something that they don't mean, in the sense they don't really, it's not part of what they're claiming, it's not part of what they really care about communicating, and they say it in order to communicate something else. And in particular, the other thing that they're interested in communicating is something that is determined by seeing as, or by framing, by seeing as or framing something in the original sentence itself.
You have an example where it's like Joe is a bulldozer. He pushes over people, or what is it?
So this is in the context of who would be, this is a very academic example, who would be a good department chair. So we need somebody who will stand up to the administration and get things done for our department.
So, we're all thinking of different bulldozers. Maybe I'm thinking, I have some image that's, maybe this isn't of interest to you, but I have some interest, like Joe's like half bulldozer, half man, or he's pushing over people, or that kind of thing. So that's actually pretty imprecise. Like, you wouldn't say that is as precise as maybe a mathematical formula.
Good.
Right?
All right. So okay, a few things to say there. One is, as you said in context is clear what you're getting at or what's going on, right? And that's one of the really important things that's both a strength and a weakness of metaphor, right? It means, so in context, we exploit assumptions and knowledge about what our interests are in context and about what we both know about how the world works in context to coordinate on particular meanings, right? So we're bringing all this rich stuff to bear, but it has to coordinate in that particular context. Mm-hmm. If we've got a shared context, then that is part of why metaphor can be a super efficient means to communicate, right? We're relying on this stuff that's really coordinated. That's also what makes it, as you say, dangerous, right? Because I'm assuming that you have shared assumptions and shared images and shared background, which you might not, right? So, and then communication could go horribly wrong. So, an example of that would be saying that, Sam's a gorilla, right? So if you say that to somebody who's watched too many movies, too many King Kong movies, they're going to think that means that, Sam is violent and, whatever. If you say it to a primatologist, they're more likely to think that Sam is reclusive and, reticent and gentle and likes to eat berries or something, right? So you have to know your audience, or at least your audience has to know something about the speaker, and you have to be able to coordinate in this way. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing about, there's a danger of miscommunication. Mm-hmm. Now, whether it's necessarily more or less precise than literal speech, I think in some cases metaphor can actually be more precise than literal speech because it evokes specific experiences, specific images that we might have. So there's an example. So Bjork was talking to a choir. She wanted to make a certain sound, a certain vocalization, and she said, make your singing like marzipan, right? And if you know what exactly marzipan tastes like, the sort of a little bit bitter, a little bit oily, a little bit, right? So that can start to lock you in on a pretty precise thing, right? So I think, if you look at wine appreciator magazines, they're always using metaphors because they're trying to get at a very specific feeling, a very specific taste that they don't have.
That's kind of interesting, though, because when you're dealing with certain things, I think you almost need metaphors. Exactly. So sound, you can sort of say higher pitch, or that, you can maybe get a little more specific, right. But you can say marzipan also if you want something.
There's something about
more poetic, emotional. But maybe things like pain.
Exactly.
Are things that.
Exactly.
How do you relate your pain to somebody else?
So especially
without
things
metaphor,
where we can't point to the property itself, right?
Yeah.
I can't say, he was wearing a coat that was that color, right? And I'm talking about my pain is inside of me, right? The taste of the wine is not something I can show to you unless by giving you, a taste of the wine, and then I got to hope that your taste buds work the same way as me. So that's something that it's exactly in those cases where you don't have access to exactly the same experience I do, that it might be really useful to turn to a metaphor where we do have shared experience and use that to pinpoint a certain similarity in an experience that's mine.
Well, that was great.
I had a blast.
I learned a lot. Elliot probably already knew all this stuff.
No, not by any means.
Well, thank you very
All right,
much.
thanks a lot.
All right.